we're moving away from the comic book stuff and WB because I know I've been talking about stuff like this since Friday.
Snap.
So now we're going to get into some Stephen King news, which you and I are both huge fans of Stephen King. You went on a whole entire new level of a turtle.
Dude, man, turtles, they're everywhere. Somebody brought it up the other day, and I was like, you don't understand. Don't go down this rabbit hole, man. I'm telling you, in the middle of all that, when my sister, who doesn't pay attention to nothing, came over and was like, do you remember this book? And pulls it out, and it was like Native American stories of Turtle Island. And I was like, what is that? And she was like, you don't remember this from when we were kids? And it was all about how the Native Americans used to call North America Turtle Island. And I was like, I'm done. I quit. We're all living in the Dark Tower.
But okay, so speaking of the Dark Tower,
are they out of their minds?
Okay, speaking of the Dark Tower, we're gonna get into this because I'm geeked out over it. I've been saying this since it was announced that they were gonna make a Dark Tower movie. I'm like, no, bad mistake. You need to make this a TV series. Give it to Amazon or give it to Netflix. At that time, Netflix was like the biggest thing, so basically that was actually the king of streaming. So I'm like, give it to Netflix because of what they did with the Daredevil series, and now I'm like, give it to Amazon because of this or that. Give it to a company that has over $1 billion to spend, so that way you can get the effects, get everything right, and lo and behold, 5 or 6 years later, now we actually have this that broke. The Dark Tower TV series is in the works from the Haunting creator Mike Flanagan, and this is also coming from Variety. And
what?
Yep, Variety is reporting this. The Haunting of Hill House in Midnight Mass. Creator Mike Flanagan had his producing partner Trevor Macy have required the rights to adapt Stephen King's The Dark Tower into a TV series. Flanagan and Macy revealed the news Thursday in an interview with Deadline, which dove more into the pair's recent decision to move their interpaired pictures overall deal with Netflix to Amazon. And this is what they had to say. Predating over deal with Amazon was acquired the rights to The Dark Tower, which, if you know anything about me, you know it has been my holy grail to project for most of my life, Flanagan said. We actually have those rights carved out of Amazon, our Amazon deal. Wow, okay, I didn't know about that, which doesn't mean that they can't or won't get behind at some point. You don't know, but that's something we've been developing ourselves and are really passionate about finally getting it up on its feet at some point. And then Amazon previously had the rights to the Dark Tower themselves and were working on a project that only made it to the pilot phase. Those rights lapsed and Flanagan and Macy picked them up before setting their pact with Amazon, which was announced December 1st. Variety has confirmed that the Dark Tower project was carved out of Flanagan and Macy's new deal at Amazon, though sources say that it doesn't necessarily mean that the series will end up on Prime Video, just that others do have a shot at it as well. Flanagan says he envisions the adaptation of The Dark Tower, for which he's already written a pilot script as a 5-season show, which is perfect if you're going to do book 1.
Yeah,
and I wish they would actually call it book 1 and do it that way. Instead of saying season 1, just say book 1.
Oh, yeah, like Avatar? Oh, for sure. I could see that.
Or
My thing is, okay. I'm kind of shocked that they're not. I don't know. Keep going. Finish this before I get into it.
Okay. It's a 5-season show with 2 standalone feature films as follows.
There it is. There it is. Yes. I was gonna say 5 seasons. I don't know if we can do it, but but I was like, but if we throw in just keep going. This is so smart.
Okay. As a 5-season show with 2 standalone feature films as follow-ups. And yes, he has spoken with King himself about plans for the adaptation, which is far from the first time Hollywood has tried to bring the King's work to the screen. The most recent being the 2017 film starring Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. And this happened because I sent him a very, very detailed outline of what I wanted to do with it. Flanagan said it was in response to that he gave us the rights. A project like this, I wouldn't want to be involved in it at all if we were taking it in a direction that was going to be blasphemous to the Stephen King material.
This is like being very true. Nerd, like if this is your thing, like which it's our thing, very rarely this is like a Peter Jackson type thing where it's like, no, I love this and I want your approval and I want all of that before I even touch it, which is kind of shocking me right now, which it has to be somebody like this for the Dark Tower because it's nuts.
It's deep, it's dark, and it goes between sci-fi, crosses the line between sci-fi, fantasy, and also a country western kind of vibe mixed in with this kind of thing too.
Yes.
So you have 3 different genres into one atmosphere, and it's a very atmospheric kind of comic and also atmospheric type of storytelling within a novel itself. Because I read the first 3 Dark Towers books. I haven't finished the Dark Towers yet.
Oh,
but the first 3 I really loved so far.
I love, and people hate on this one, I love Wizard and Glass. Is that the 3rd one? No. Which one is it? It goes. Nope. I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong. It's the Gunslinger, which I think I know a lot of people that enjoy just the Gunslinger, and they don't continue after that, and I don't blame them. But they love the Gunslinger, and I was like, no, it's a jam. And then it's the drawing of the 3, and then the Wastelands. Yep.
Right. The Wastelands is the 3rd book.
I'm kind of, because I have it. I'm kind of, this is where Marvel's pigeonholed themselves with things, because they did the companion stuff. They did all of the comics and stuff. And it's like, you guys could have, if you guys didn't go so kid friendly, you guys might have been able to do something with that, but I didn't want them to. I was kind of worried about that. I was like, no, I really don't want you guys to.
Well, I was excited whenever the movie came out, getting pushed out, but then I saw the runtime. It was like an hour and some more minutes. I was like, nope, this movie's going to suck. I'm going to go see it anyways.
They weren't doing a sequel, and I was like, excuse me? Because
that's because it bombed.
Well, but I was just like, how you can't tell this story if you're going to tell the whole Dark Tower, not the Gunslinger. That's why I keep waiting for somebody to say we're going to do the Gunslinger, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't mean you're doing the whole Dark Tower. But when you say things like the Dark Tower, that's a whole other can of worms. Like, because I wouldn't blame them if they just said we're going to do the Gunslinger and just do the Roland's one-off story and call it a day, and I wouldn't be mad at that. But ever since it came out, and then what was the other one? Dr. Sleep, when I watched that, I was like, there's connections we can make here, and I hope they do it. And I think it's really smart. I just finished Rings of Power. I really liked it, but all I could think was, why didn't you guys cut this? I won't give anything away. Why didn't you guys cut this person's story out and just do 5 episodes here and then do a 2-hour special for 2 weeks? Like, what do we used to call them? The first It was
miniseries,
like a TV
miniseries
event. Yeah, a miniseries. Yeah. And just do that. And then I feel like, and I'm not saying like it was terrible or anything, but I feel like the show would be streamlined better and the pacing would be better if we weren't trying to do this 2 towers jumping all over the place. So when you said that they were going to do TV movies, I'm like, no, that's super smart, because then we could just do the series, big stuff, and then all the craziness that you kind of need but kind of don't, put that into TV movies. That I've been waiting for somebody to do that. I was like, why aren't people utilizing that more and just doing especially with how we do things now with DC, with Marvel, everything connects, series, TV shows.
Well,
why can't we do a movie?
You also made a good point a couple of years ago on your channel where basically Stephen King was like the OG of the sharing universe.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to say, what did I say? Oh, God.
The reason why that still resonates within me is because I'm a huge Stephen King fan.
Oh, yeah.
So, and now we actually have the Welcome to Derry TV show that's coming on HBO Max.
I was going to say we were talking about this with something. What was it? And I'm like, no, we talked about that, but what was that? And I was like, did we talk about that on the channel, or did we just text about it? But I'm like, no.
No, we talked about
Welcome to Derry, because I was like, oh, you're not calling it Pennywise, and we're all focused on Pennywise. You're calling it Derry. And I'm like, there's a lot of things that happen in Derry.
Right.
And yeah, the Dark Tower gets, oh my God. If people thought Loki was like,
there's actually a little bit more in context too with this, but it just goes on to say it was in response to that he gave us the rights. A project like this, I wouldn't want to be involved in it. All if we were taking it in a direction that was going. Okay, so Interpret was previously under an overall deal at Netflix, while there's a company put out the multiple hit shows and the horror genre, including both The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, as well as The Midnight Mass and The Midnight Club. Flanagan was the creator.
I like
first 3 of the game.
Did I watch The Haunting of Hill House? I think I watched. That was on Netflix, right?
Right.
I liked that. I remember I did like that. And like I said, I appreciate anytime somebody comes out and is like, no, we triple checked with everybody around and I genuinely love this thing. But I didn't know that Variety said it. Like the Dark Tower's always kind of been teased to be happening. And it's never happened. And there's a reason for that. Because
well, also too, that show would be so expensive to the point where you actually do have to probably fork out about $1 billion.
Oh yeah. This is
And
do you think that they're trying to one up Rings of Power?
well, here's the thing. If they are, let's say for instance that they are going with Amazon, all they're going to be doing is banking their own selves.
Yeah, because I just know like people like to hear that even at work and stuff where people don't really care. They were like, "Oh, that's the most expensive show ever made," and people knew that. And so I'm like,
this is going to be the top of the Lord of the Rings to me.
Oh yeah, no, this is. I don't think people, because I think when people think Stephen King, there's the big things that they think about, and that's awesome. That's fine. But until you get into the Dark Tower, it's like
exactly
what?
Well, you remember that? Wild. You remember that TV series that they had, Castle Rock?
Oh, I loved Castle Rock.
I liked the second season over the first season. Like, I didn't really care for anything that happened within the first season. So what I did was I watched about 4 episodes, canceled out on that, and then go into the second season. I loved it. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? They need to go on ahead and do an It prequel within this Castle Rock universe.
That's kind of crazy.
And then the next thing you know it, that show gets canned. I'm like, well, so much for my thinking. Then now it's like, oh, this is happening.
Yeah, and Skarsgård was running around in that, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, Skarsgård was in that show.
Castle Rock. And I think that so many times, even studios have just been like Stephen King, the horror guy, that nobody thought to go like, oh, let's deep dive into this series. And now I feel like Castle Rock tried to. I feel like a couple things were. I feel like they were putting their toe in, but they weren't going to go full Dark Tower. And now I feel like obviously now they're going full Dark Tower, but I do feel like a couple things were like adjacent to it to see how fans would react and not make it full Dark Tower, but we're making it close to kind of the bones of what it could be.
Right.